Welcome to Studio 5. We're on the road this week coming to you from Orlando, Florida, because as summer heats up, we want to bring you a look at stories you need to see on the big and small screen. We've got Shooting Stars, Sound of Freedom, and Let Me Have My Son all on deck this week. Let's begin with Tim Ballard, whose hero's story is actually going and rescuing children from sex trafficking. It's a journey that began as a special agent for the Department of Homeland Security. His story is being told in The Sound of Freedom, being screened here in Orlando, and it stars Jim Caviezel. Take me back, I guess, to that period of your life. What was going through your heart as this is all unfolding?
Nobody was talking about human trafficking, and I would tell people these stories of the things I was coming across, and no one believed me.
I don't think I can do this job, Tim. As soon as I lay down, all I see are those kids' faces.
And it was like, these are real kids. And really, it was my wife. In the second week of December of 2013, she grabbed me by the collars and she said, "I will not let you jeopardize my salvation," she said.
You quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
And in that moment, I mentioned I felt lonely before. I felt not lonely anymore. That's when I really put it into perspective. You're right. Why are we here on this earth? And then we jumped in, and the operation, as the movie depicts, was extremely successful. In fact, there's a documentary that covers the operation, and you'll see that it was actually bigger than what Sound of Freedom was able to even show.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade.
Jim Caviezel portrays you in the film. Your thoughts seeing him on screen as you for the first time?
Well, it's really bizarre, first of all, to watch.
It's all rebel territory. No one goes in. Not the army, not the police, not us.
I never thought this movie was going to be made because from concept to screen, I think I read 5% make it to the big screen, right? So when they were talking to me about it, these producers, I thought, well, it's not going to happen. But a few years into their endeavor, I remember they showed up in, I believe it was December of 2017, and they said, "Hey, we're going to film this summer. And we need to pick someone to play you." And they said, "You don't get to choose, but you can give input." And right out of the gate, I knew who I wanted. So well, if this is a real question, the answer is Jim Caviezel. I know Jim Caviezel loves Jesus, and that's the only real requirement I have.
There's no Marine unit coming.
You're on your own.
They asked him, and he had a really personal experience himself with human trafficking, and we didn't know about it. He jumped right in, and this is not just entertainment, or this is not just a job. This is truly a mission and a movement, and he's committed.
Timoteo, tú rescatas niños, ¿verdad? Puedes ayudarme a encontrar mi hermana.
Te lo prometo.
What's your prayer?
My prayer is that we can end this, because I don't have the capability to end this. This is slavery. This is slavery in a form that is targeting children, and it's labor slavery, it's sex slavery, it's organ harvesting, and I love to learn from history. What I can do is I try to emulate and pay homage to my heroes of the Underground Railroad. In my office, I have a big picture of Harriet Tubman, and those are my heroes. Harriet Beecher Stowe has an interesting story where she doesn't know what to do, so she writes a book. And I look at that as the modern day, like a movie, right? Media, and that's what ended it. And so I see this film as almost a modern day iteration of a book, the Treks, the abolitionists, their voices, the storytellers. I hope that we can see history repeat itself to defeat a different form, but every bit a form of slavery.
Over 2 million children a year are being sucked into the deepest recesses of hell. If we do nothing, someday it's gonna reach the likes of you. if this was your daughter.
The Sound of Freedom is in theaters nationwide on the 4th of July, Independence Day. And by the way, today, Tim Ballard is the founder and CEO of Operation Underground Railroad, which continues to rescue children from the sex trafficking trade. Coming up next.
People think they know my story, but this is our story.
It's a Studio 5 first look at the story of young LeBron James. We're exploring themes of family, faith, and friendship in Shooting Stars.
Just need a second, coach.
You on the team here?
Nah, but I could be if you're lucky. Me and my boys, we've been balling with each other since we was like 10. Call ourselves the Fab Four.
Let's go then! Get up! Hey!
We can win you a state championship, guaranteed.
And welcome back to Studio 5, and this week Studio 5 is Orlando, Florida. We've hit the road to bring you a look at stories you need to see on the big and small screen as the summer heats up. One inspiring story is called Shooting Stars. It's a book and now it's a film based on the young life of LeBron James and his closest friends. It's a story of how they overcome insurmountable odds to form the best high school basketball team in the country. We all know his adult career brought him through the state of Florida for quite some time, while his young life is an incredible story of faith, family, and friendship.
Just need a second, coach.
You on the team here?
Nah, but I could be if you're lucky. Me and my boys, we've been balling with each other since we was like 10. Call ourselves the Fab Four.
Let's go then! Get up! Hey!
We can win you a state championship, guaranteed.
Chris, how did you come to this story, and what were you thinking when you got word that you would be directing a film about the young life of LeBron James?
So I read the script, loved it, loved the themes in it, loved the connection to, a father-son story. You read it or you hear about it and you think, oh, this is a basketball movie. And it is, but it's got bigger themes. And that's what really attracted me to it.
People think they know my story, but this is our story.
It takes a village, to raise children. It takes a village for us all to be connected and to continue to thrive. And I think those are themes that Coach Drew had in his life. He was a man of faith. He kind of instilled that in his son. His best friend was a guy he knew from church. They just really used those principles that they believed in to push their kids forward.
Sacrifice, muscle pay the price.
When they were young, I was just trying to find good kids. They all kind of balanced each other out. Willie, both his parents addicts. His big brother took him in, saved his little brother's life. Shion, we just want Shion to work off a little bit of his baby fat. Drew was born with basketball in his blood.
I'm Caleb McLaughlin, and I play Drew Joyce III. One of LeBron James's friends in the film that he's grew up with, and he's still friends till this day.
I picked LeBron because he has skills and he was a good kid. His mom just wants a spot where he can be safe and not get in any trouble.
Marquise Mookie Cook, playing LeBron James. At the time, he's young, still learning, but ultimately he already knows his, his final goal.
They're not very good.
Let's try this. You're in the game, let's go.
We may be seeing the beginnings of something special.
I think many of us think we know LeBron James because we followed him for so long, whether you're a fan of the Lakers or not. What surprised you about his young story?
For me, this is like a superhero origin story. And you got to get a real look inside to see what that was. It wasn't perfect for LeBron. He had to learn a lot, not only in basketball IQ, but just how to, move forward in life and protect himself and, the mistakes he made, learn from them. And the way that his friendships have stuck together, I think it's all a testament to the village that raised him.
What's it like coaching the best high school player in the country?
Play some defense.
Mookie, what surprised you about LeBron's young story? I think we all think we know him. You get to know him more intimately at a younger age. What surprised you?
At that age of having so much fame, how he stayed, just steady, level-headed, because with all that, it always comes with a heck of distractions. And you don't hear nothing bad about LeBron. You know, I mean, he carries himself a great person, and you can definitely just see that. You know, throughout the film, he's always, you know, just stayed focused. You know, what I mean, ultimate goal.
Caleb, what lessons do you say you learned about faith, family, and friendship from this film?
Yeah, I would say exactly that. Family, friendship, loyalty, not allowing other people's opinions and doubts to enter their circle. In the film, of course, they had a lot of ups and downs, but they were able to, you know, go against the grain, and they're still friends to this day. So that's really inspiring. You don't get that a lot. You don't see that with a lot of people nowadays.
Sorry, can't all be the chosen one.
What you say to me?
How successful you become depends on how well you manage pressure.
I imagine you had an opportunity to speak to the real life people who the story is based on in addition to LeBron. What did you take away?
Good people, salt of the earth. You know, Coach Drew, just a really humble guy who just was trying to figure it out. LeBron's boys, like, all really ambitious, never treated LeBron any differently, even as the star was rising, just stayed loyal, no jealousy. It just feels like reality, you know, and being there in Akron, you know, seeing how life is, it was beautiful, man. I fell in love with Akron and the people, the Midwest mentality. It's important. I think it has so much to do with LeBron's success.
Wanted to make great players out of you. Dad wants to make great men. That'll last a lot longer.
We here, because we know what we're capable of.
Shooting Stars begins streaming on Peacock this week, June 2nd to be exact. We caution you, though, the film does contain adult language. Before we take a break, it is time for your story in pictures, your Studio 5 snapshot, and we thought it only appropriate this week to dig into the archives and bring you a look at the life and legendary career of Tina Turner. She was the undisputed queen of rock and roll. The legendary Tina Turner's roots take us to Nutbush, Tennessee, a small town between Memphis and Nashville, made famous in her music. She was born Anna Mae Bullock and rose to prominence as Tina, performing with her husband Ike Turner in the 1960s. She overcame and escaped his violence and abuse and went on to become a chart-topping solo artist with hits like What's Love Got to Do With It and Simply the Best. Tina Turner died peacefully at her home in Switzerland last week at age 83, following a long time of illness. This photographic look at her life is this week's Studio 5 snapshot. Still to come.
Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Dad. How you doing, Daddy? I miss you so much. Woo!
I miss you, too.
A touching film ripped from the pages of the filmmaker's life.
His life ended when he was 16, 17 years old. His life ended, but he lives.
Welcome back to Studio 5, coming to you from Orlando, Florida, with another story you need to see this summer. Writer and director Cristobal Cruzen brings us Let Me Have My Son. It's the story of a father's journey to rescue his son who suffers from schizophrenia, only to find he is nowhere to be found.
My son, Daniel, was born in Miami, Florida in 1983. He was a beautiful child, the apple of my eye. I lost Daniel to mental illness when he was a young teenager. He was still the apple of my eye. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Dad. How you doing, Daddy? I miss you so much. Woo!
Before we talk about the movie, let's talk about the inspiration for it. What happened with your son and you?
Yeah, he developed schizophrenia in his mid-teens, later teens. He spent some time at a juvenile psychiatric hospital. And when he turned 18, he was civilly committed to the state psychiatric hospital. We have a history of mental illness in the family, yes, but I never thought it would touch him. No, not him.
Let Me Have My Son. What made you feel that a film was needed for this situation to share this story?
There were really two reasons for me, and the first one was very personal. I wanted to make a film to tell this story because I wanted to honor my son. Sometimes the best cure is patience. I had a dream about him a few days ago, but dreams don't count, do they? And then the second reason for making this film, as I have come to learn, so many millions and millions, I haven't met all the millions, but I know they're there, of people are going through something similar. I have to find my son. I don't know where he is. This is my son, Benny. One young man said he could barely get the words out, and he was a college student. We were showing the film on a college campus, but he just was trying to say thank you for making this film. My mother has suffered from mental illness my entire life. So this film is also intended to embrace other people and show empathy, and we're in this together, you know, for our loved ones.
Schizophrenia is an incurable disease, Mr. Whitmore.
Let me have understanding.
One of the beauties of the film is that faith is shared within the film, even referencing scripture.
Let me have peace. Let me have strength. Let me have faith.
What would you say to someone who is a person of faith, but at the same time faced with this challenge? Because I imagine it had to be a struggle, has to be a struggle.
Well, that's a fantastic question. And the truth is, I really, truly struggled because my faith was tested. But you know what? When it became dark, I just looked for light wherever I could. Among the ashes, I linger. Memories that do not fade. For people of faith, never give up and never let go. Never let go. To you, O Lord, I pray. I feel good about the film. I feel, for me, I have to say, Christians will often look at movies for what it will do for their faith and evangelism. And Christians and others will also look at movies for how much money they can make. And I have a third way in addition to that, which is it a beautiful film? Is it a film of beauty? And I think this one is going to fit in that category.
Let Me Have My Son is streaming right now. I promise you, it is worth seeing. Welcome back to Studio 5. Music fuels this production every single week, and this week it's probably no surprise. The song playing in my ear is simply the best. I think you know who sings it. The best. On that musical note, we are just about out of time for this edition of Studio 5 from Orlando, Florida. Let's take a look at what we're working to bring you come next week when we return home to the studio.
Good evening.
and welcome to...
It's this year's K-Love Fan Awards. And you can catch one of the biggest nights in Christian entertainment on TBN this Friday evening. Then come back and check out Studio 5 for an all-access backstage look at a great night in Nashville. We hope you'll join us for that story and so much more come next week. Right now, we have time for just one more thing, and we're going to give that one more thing to Tim Ballard. He has our final word for this edition of Studio 5.
In the moments, when in the action, in the part, I'm calm. I'm calm. I see clearly. And it's because there's something greater than me that's directing things. I feel that. But God lets you know that it was him by making sure you could be plenty scared before and plenty scared after. And somehow we just keep going back in because we know that God's children are not for sale. And there's one scripture in the Bible that I think of constantly when I go into these operations. It's better that a millstone be hung around your neck and you be cast to the bottom of the sea than that you should hurt one of these children. And so I think I know this much. I know where he stands on this. And if he stands on this to that level, then I can go into the action. He will back me. He will protect us. And without that faith, I would never, ever have the courage to even think about doing some of these things.
Tim Ballard, what an awesome word and a great final word for this edition of Studio 5 and this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then please come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye, everybody.